King Arthur. Arthur is the guy who basically turned Britain's chaos into a legend. One story says he yanked a sword from a stone, instant boss move. Another says a mysterious lady of the lake handed him Excalibur, like some medieval Amazon Prime delivery. But Arthur wasn't just about shiny weapons. He built the round table so his knights could sit as equals, because apparently, good leadership sometimes looks like math class. His crew chased the Holy Grail, fought magical creatures, and occasionally made terrible life choices. What really sticks is that Arthur's story wasn't about one victory. It was about what a king should be: brave, fair, a little tragic, and unforgettable. That's why even today, Arthur keeps showing up in books, movies, and yes, even cartoons. Sir Lancelot du Lac, Lancelot, the golden boy of Camelot. Raised by the Lady of the Lake, he grew into Arthur's greatest knight. The type who could win tournaments, rescue queens, and make every other knight look like they were still in training wheels. But here's the twist. Perfection cracks. Lancelot fell for Queen Guinevere, Arthur's wife. That romance didn't just break hearts, it broke Camelot itself. So while he was unbeatable on the battlefield, his biggest defeat came from love. Some versions say he even got close to finding the Holy Grail, but his sins kept him out. That's Lancelot in a nutshell. Flawless in armor, flawed underneath, which makes him feel real. He wasn't just the strongest knight, he was the reminder that even legends can trip over their own hearts. St. George. St. George, the knight who turned dragon slaying into a full-time brand. The story goes like this. A town was being terrorized by a dragon who demanded daily snacks. And by snacks, I mean human sacrifices. When it was finally the princess's turn, George shows up, spears the beast, and rescues her like a medieval action hero. Now, was there really a dragon? Probably not. But in the Middle Ages, giant lizard with wings was code for evil itself. George became the symbol of courage, faith, and a knight's duty to protect the weak. His Red Cross banner still flies on flags today, even though he wasn't even English. That's right, England's patron saint wasn't from England. Just shows you, sometimes legends travel better than people. Roland. Roland was Charlemagne's guy, the knight you call when things get messy. Except, well, he had a stubborn streak the size of France. At Roncesvalles, his army is ambushed. Does he blow his horn to call for help? Nope. He waits until the last second. When he finally does, he blasts it so hard his head literally bursts. Medieval heroes really didn't do subtle. He carried Durandal, a sword said to contain relics like a saint's tooth, basically a pocket-sized cathedral with an edge. Roland fought until he dropped, and even tried to break his sword so enemies couldn't steal it. Didn't work. The legend turned him into France's poster knight for loyalty and courage, even if his too proud to ask for help thing feels painfully relatable today. El Cid. El Cid was Spain's knight, who didn't care much for team colors. He fought for whoever hired him. Christian kings? Sure. Muslim rulers? Why not? Think of him as the ultimate medieval freelancer. He finally grabbed Valencia and ruled it himself, which is a pretty solid promotion. His swords, Tizona and Colada, became legendary, half weapon, half status symbol. What makes him stand out is how he balanced piety with practicality. He could pray like a saint one day, then sign mercenaries the next. The Cantar de Mio Cid turned him into Spain's national hero, but under the legend was a man who knew survival meant being smart, flexible, and occasionally ruthless. El Cid wasn't just a knight, he was the blueprint for turning chaos into opportunity. William Marshall. William Marshall was basically the knight who speed ran life on hard mode and still won. Born without money, he rose through tournaments. Think medieval UFC, except with lances, and made a fortune. He served 4 different English kings, usually the ones nobody else wanted to babysit. At one point, he even switched sides mid-battle, then switched back when politics cooled down. Despite all that, his reputation never tanked. People called him the greatest knight who ever lived, and honestly, it stuck. At 70, when most knights were retired or dead, he still led troops in battle. His final boss move? Making sure Magna Carta got reissued, shaping English law forever. Not bad for a guy who started out broke and armorless. Hua Mulan. Mulan is proof that legends don't always wear chainmail. In the Chinese ballad, she takes her father's place in the army by disguising herself as a man. For 12 years, nobody notices. Either her acting was flawless, or the guys were really bad at small talk. She fought under Northern Wei banners, battling nomadic invaders, earning respect from generals, and turning into the hero every soldier wanted by their side. When the war ended, the emperor offered her riches and high office. Instead, she just asked for a horse so she could go home. That twist, the quiet return instead of glory, made her unforgettable. Mulan's story became a symbol of loyalty, bravery, and family honor. And yes, long before Disney, she was already legendary. Bhishma. Bhishma from the Indian epic Mahabharata is the knight who could outstubborn time itself. Born with divine lineage, he took a vow of lifelong celibacy so his father could remarry, a decision so extreme it made the gods hand him near immortality. He became commander of the Kuru armies, fighting with unmatched skill, strategy, and a giant bow that few could even lift. His deal? He could only die when he chose, which makes battles with him basically unfair. In the Kurukshetra war, Bhishma led until pierced by a rain of arrows. Instead of dying, he lay on a bed of them for weeks, calmly giving advice on politics, ethics, and life. Imagine doing TED Talks while impaled. Bhishma's legend wasn't just about strength, it was about duty taken to impossible extremes. Tomoe Gozen. Tomoe Gozen was the kind of samurai who made sure her name stuck, even in a world that barely recorded women warriors. Fighting in the 12th century Japan during the Genpei War, she served under Minamoto no Yoshinaka and was described as beautiful, strong, and fearless, basically the triple threat of medieval resumes. She rode into battle with a bow, a sword, and a reputation for never backing down. One chronicle says she beheaded enemies as easily as if she were slicing vegetables. When Yoshinaka's forces fell apart, stories split. Some say she vanished into obscurity, others that she escaped and became a nun. Either way, Tomoe Gozen wasn't just a side character. She was a legend who proved that the battlefield never belonged to men alone. Bai Qi. Bai Qi, the human butcher of ancient China, was a general so ruthless he practically speed-ran wars. Serving the Qin state during the Warring States period, he won over 70 battles and supposedly killed close to 1 million enemy soldiers. Yeah, 1 million. His favorite trick? Psychological warfare. He'd outmaneuver armies until surrender was the only option, then slaughter them anyway, sending a clear message. Don't test Qin. Brutal, yes, but effective. His greatest moment came at the Battle of Changping, where he lured the Zhao army into a trap and annihilated them. Despite his record, court politics turned against him, and he was ordered to commit suicide. Bai Qi's legacy is messy, half-genius strategist, half-walking nightmare. But either way, history never forgot the general who made war feel inevitable. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan didn't just win battles, he rewrote geography. Born as Temujin on the Mongolian steppes, his childhood was full of betrayal, hardship, and wild survival. Out of that came a leader who united the nomadic tribes into a war machine. His tactics were revolutionary: lightning-fast cavalry, fake retreats, and terrifying psychological warfare. Cities that resisted often didn't exist afterward. But here's the twist. He wasn't only destruction. He built one of the largest empires in history, promoted trade across the Silk Road, and even pushed for religious tolerance. His generals could be as loyal as his horses, but his enemies? Not so lucky. Whether you see him as a visionary or a conqueror coated in blood, Genghis Khan's impact was so massive it still echoes in maps, cultures, and DNA. Saladin. Saladin wasn't just a conqueror. He was the guy who made his rivals respect him more than their friends. Rising from a Kurdish family, he united Egypt and Syria, then delivered the big win at the Battle of Hattin in 1187, basically wiping the Crusader army off the map. After that, Jerusalem fell back into his hands. But here's the twist. When he entered the Holy City, he didn't slaughter the population like the Crusaders had decades earlier. Instead, he showed mercy, letting many leave safely. That shocked Europe, where knights realized their enemy was more knightly than them. Saladin became a legend both in Islamic history and even in European ballads. He wasn't just a warrior, he was proof that real power came with honor. Rostam. Rostam was Persia's ultimate hero, the guy every warrior wished they could be. In the Shahnameh, he's described as so strong he once fought and killed a dragon while still half asleep. His horse, Raksh, was almost as famous, fierce enough to bite lions and loyal enough to carry him through the 7 labors, trials full of demons, magic, and impossible odds. Rostam was the protector of kings, the savior of kingdoms, and the hammer that crushed invaders. But the legend also carried tragedy. In one battle, he unknowingly fought and killed his own son, Sohrab, a twist of fate that turned victory into heartbreak. Rostam wasn't just muscle. He embodied Persia's ideals of loyalty, duty, and glory. A hero so large, even his flaws became legendary. Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn was Ireland's unstoppable warrior. Part hero, part nightmare. As a boy, he killed a blacksmith's huge guard dog with a hurling stick, then promised to take its place. That's how he became the Hound of Cuchulainn. By his teens, he had the infamous warp spasm, a battle frenzy where his body twisted into something monstrous, making him look like a walking horror story. Armed with his spear, the Guy Bolg, he defended Ulster single-handedly in the Tyne Bo Cuailnge, slicing through entire armies. His death was just as dramatic. Mortally wounded, he tied himself to a standing stone so he'd die on his feet, still facing his enemies. Cuchulainn was the hero who proved courage could be glorious, terrifying, and tragic all at once. Achilles. Achilles was basically the MVP of Greek mythology, born with near invincibility thanks to his dip in the river Styx. The catch? His mom missed one spot, his heel. Classic oversight. During the Trojan War, he was unstoppable. He cut down warriors left and right, his rage blazing hottest after his friend Patroclus was killed. That fury led to the showdown with Hector, Troy's greatest champion, and Achilles made it clear who ruled the battlefield. But fate doesn't care how many muscles you've got. An arrow, some say guided by Apollo, found that one vulnerable heel and ended him. Achilles became the blueprint for the tragic hero. Unmatched strength, unstoppable pride, and a downfall written from the start. His name still means hidden weakness, which is both legendary and kind of insulting. Shivaji. Shivaji, founder of the Maratha Empire in India, was the kind of leader who turned guerrilla tactics into an art form. Born in the 17th century, he grew up watching powerful empires dominate his homeland. But instead of folding, he built his own kingdom from scratch. His secret weapon wasn't brute force. It was strategy. He used surprise raids, hill forts, and lightning attacks that kept enemies guessing. Shivaji wasn't just about winning battles. He built strong administration, respected local cultures, and even formed a navy to secure the coastline. He crowned himself Chhatrapati, or Supreme King, symbolizing independence from foreign rule. For millions, Shivaji became a symbol of resistance and pride, the warrior who showed that brains could match brawn and turn underdogs into empire builders. Rani Lakshmi Bai. Rani Lakshmi Bai, the Queen of Jhansi, became one of the fiercest faces of India's 1857 rebellion against British rule. Widowed young, the British tried to annex her kingdom under the doctrine of lapse. She didn't take that lying down. Instead, she strapped on armor, mounted her horse, and rode into battle with her infant son tied to her back. A sight so iconic, it still fires imaginations today. Her forces clashed fiercely with the British, and though vastly outnumbered, she fought with skill and relentless courage. Lakshmi Bai died in combat at just 29, refusing to be captured. To the British, she was a dangerous rebel. To India, she became a martyr and a symbol of resistance, remembered as the warrior queen who refused to bow. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc wasn't a knight in shiny armor. She was a teenage girl who convinced hardened French soldiers to follow her into battle. Claimed she was guided by divine visions, and somehow, it worked. In the middle of the 100 Years' War, when France was getting stomped, Joan rallied troops and led them to key victories, most famously at Orléans. She never swung a giant sword like in the movies, but her courage lit the fire under a demoralized nation. Captured by the English, she was tried for heresy and burned at the stake at just 19, a brutal end. But centuries later, she was canonized as a saint, turning her from condemned heretic to France's national hero. Proof that inspiration can sometimes change history more than any blade. Jan Zizka. Jan Zizka was the guy you did not want to face in a medieval battlefield. A Czech general during the Hussite Wars, he never lost a single battle. Not once. Even more impressive, he did it while blind in one eye and later completely blind. Zizka pioneered war wagons, basically turning carts into rolling fortresses with guns, crossbows, and spikes. Think medieval tanks, but pulled by horses. With these, he wrecked armies much bigger than his own. His discipline and tactics terrified opponents, and his legend grew so much that after his death, Followers supposedly made a drum from his skin to lead troops into battle. Whether true or not, his undefeated record stands. Zizka's name became a synonym for resilience, innovation, and beating the odds with brains over brute force. Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu wasn't born into glory, he made it. Rising in early 19th century southern Africa, he transformed the Zulu clan into a fearsome empire. His genius was military innovation. He introduced the Ekelwa, a short stabbing spear perfect for close combat, and the bullhorn formation, where warriors encircled the enemy like a predator closing in. Brutal? Absolutely. Effective? Beyond doubt. Shaka's campaigns reshaped the region, uniting tribes while scattering others in what became known as the Mafakane, or the Crushing. He ruled with both brilliance and terror, demanding absolute discipline, but also loyalty. Shaka's reign was short, assassinated by his own half-brothers, but his impact was enormous. His name still echoes as one of history's greatest warrior kings, proof that strategy and ruthlessness can carve empires from almost nothing. Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse wasn't about speeches or big titles. He let his actions do the talking. A Lakota warrior in the 1800s, he became legendary for his hit-and-run tactics that drove U.S. soldiers nuts. He moved fast, struck harder, and vanished before the enemy even knew what happened. His most famous moment? The Battle of the Little Bighorn, where he and other leaders crushed Custer's forces. Crazy Horse fought not for glory, but to protect his people and their land. No portraits of him exist, by choice. He believed being photographed stole a piece of the soul. In 1877, he was betrayed and killed while under a supposed peace flag. Still, he's remembered as the quiet, unstoppable warrior who never let fear or fame get the better of him. Ragnar Lothbrok. Ragnar Lothbrok is that Viking who blurs the line between history and legend. Some say he was real, others say he's more of a mashup of different Norse warlords. Either way, his story is wild. He's remembered as a fearless raider who terrorized England and France, supposedly wearing trousers made from animal skins, hence the name Lothbrok, or Hairy Breeches. He fought dragons in sagas, raided kingdoms in chronicles, and had sons who became even more famous, like Ivar the Boneless and Bjorn Ironside. His end? Tossed into a pit of venomous snakes by an English king. Not the most dignified way out, but it made the sagas unforgettable. Real or not, Ragnar embodies the Viking spirit. Brutal raids, bold risks, and enough drama for 10 Netflix shows. Hang Tuah. Hang Tuah is Malaysia's legendary warrior diplomat, and his story is a mix of history and folklore. He served the Sultan of Malacca in the 15th century, and his loyalty was unmatched, sometimes to a fault. Hang Tuah was trained in Silat, the Malay martial art, and became so skilled that enemies thought twice before crossing him. One of his most famous tales is his duel with his best friend, Hang Jebat, who rebelled against the Sultan. The fight lasted for days, ending in tragedy. Hang Tuah's motto, Takkan Melayu hilang di dunia, meaning the Malays shall never vanish from the earth, still resonates today as a national saying. Whether fully real or partly myth, Hang Tuah remains the model of loyalty, honor, and martial skill in Southeast Asian legend. Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi was the samurai who basically hacked life on hard mode. Over 60 duels, never a single loss. And sometimes he didn't even bother with a real sword. He once carved a wooden one out of an oar and still won. His showdown with Sasaki Kojiro is the stuff of legends. Musashi strolls in late, messes with Kojiro's head, and ends the fight in one strike. But he wasn't just a fighter. He was a thinker. He wrote the Book of Five Rings, a guide to strategy that CEOs still quote today like it's a self-help manual. Musashi lived rough, meditated in caves, painted when he felt like it, and dodged all the usual fame traps. He was the master who played by no one's rules but his own. Khalid ibn al-Walid. Khalid ibn al-Walid, nicknamed the Sword of Allah, was one of history's most unstoppable generals. He started as an enemy of early Islam, but once he converted, he became its fiercest defender. His record? Around 100 battles, and not a single defeat. At Yarmouk, his strategies shattered a massive Byzantine army, securing the future of the Muslim world. He was known for speed. His cavalry could march incredible distances and still fight like fresh troops. Yet despite his success, Khalid died not on the battlefield but in bed, frustrated that no enemy ever managed to take him down. His words summed it up best. "I fought in so many battles, and here I am, dying like a camel." Few warriors have ever lived or died with that kind of legend. And that's the roll call. Knights, rebels, and warriors who bent history their way. If you enjoyed this, stick around for the next one. And hey, subscribing wouldn't hurt.